Hi guys, it's Chris at Court and Crown, back in my cider shed with some more cider to try. But not just cider, some cheese as well. So, what's with the Somerset Day thing, Chris? What's all that about? I'll tell you what it's about. As you probably know, I'm not from Somerset. I'm from Teesside, which is quite a long way from Somerset in very many different ways. However, I work for a company called the Trethowyn Brothers, and I manage their stall in Borough Market, and they are Somerset-based traditional cheesemakers. They make a go with Caerphilly, an unpasteurised raw milk Caerphilly, and they make a cloth-bound cheddar called Pitchfork. Raw milk, cloth-bound, very traditional cheese. And in order to celebrate Somerset Day, they've asked me to do a film and try some Somerset produce. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I've got 2 cheeses, I've got 2 ciders, some bit of info first though, because I think you can get some bargains online if you want to get hold of some of these cheeses. Let's have a look. Wrong sheet, Christopher. Where's the right sheet? That's not the right sheet. Here's the right sheet. So, in honour of Somerset Day, which is on Tuesday the 11th of May, in conjunction with Shop Somerset, go to www.shopsomerset.co.uk. I'll put it on the screen. And the Trethowyn Brothers, you can get some discounts. If you go and buy some cheese online at trethowynbrothers.com or shopsomerset.co.uk, you can get 10% discount on your cheeses. So yeah, if you see anything you like in this film, you want to try it, and trust me, you'll want to try it, then go along and buy some stuff. There'll be a code to put in when you buy your cheese to get your 10% discount, which is Somerset Day. I'll put that on the screen as well. But yeah, so let's have a look at what we're going to try. So we've got 2 ciders, 2 cheeses, and actually I've done it so one of the cheeses we're going to try is very traditional Somerset, and I've mentioned it already. It's this guy, cheddar. That is a majestic piece of cheddar, is it not? Cloth-bound cheddar. I left the cloth on so you can see that, because that's very interesting. And the other one is very non-traditional Somerset cheese. It's made from sheep's milk, which is very non-traditional English milk to use, unless you go back like 1,000 years or something. Pretty much, everything made in this country traditionally would have been cow's milk for the most part. And it's also a soft cheese. Traditional British cheeses tend to be hard. Think cheddar, think double Gloucester, think Lancashire, think red Leicester, think Cheshire, all these different things, all hard cheeses, usually large format cow's cheeses as well. So this is kind of modern British, modern Somerset, and this is traditional Somerset. So what we're going to have with them are 2 ciders. The first one, very traditional Somerset. It's from Crossman's. It's their Orchard Special, and they're literally just across the field from the dairy where Trethowyn Brothers make, where Morgan and Todd and Kim, the Trethowens, all make their cheese, just across the way from them. So this is a still cider. So I'll talk about it more, but yeah, very traditional still cider. And it's going to go with another Somerset cider made in Shepton Mallet. The orchards are in Pilton, I believe, and it's this guy, Tam O'Shanter from Pilton Cider in Shepton Mallet. So yeah, very different. So look at the formats, how different. The two cheeses look very different, and the formats for these look very different. Bottled, corked, very non-traditional Somerset method of making cider this, but again, I'll talk about them as I go along. So I think what I'm going to do is start with the soft cheese, because that is the going to be less strong, and the cider will be probably less bold as well, I would suggest. So let's do that first. Haven't tried this before. It's called Aveline. It's from Homewood Dairy, I believe is the name of the dairy. Homewood Dairy, Homewood Cheeses. Let me have a look at my list. I've never had this cheese before, so it's quite cool. It is made by Tim and Angela Homewood at the Mendip Hills, Somerset. Yeah, Homewood is the name of the dairy by the looks of it. Where are they? Does it say on here where they are exactly? The Old Sawmill, Ubley, Bristol. There you go. BS40 6PE. So this is going to go in a guest cheese box, which is going to come out from the Trethowens quite soon. It's not available yet. If you want to buy cheddar, go on their website. If you want to buy go with, go on their website. Also Ragstone, which is a goat's cheese, and Fane, which is a triple cream cheese, and Stitchelton, which is amazing blue cheese. This is going to be a guest cheese. It's going in a guest box that they're going to release quite soon. So we thought we'd open one up and try it. So I'm going to unwrap it. 4 products I'm trying to juggle in my brain. They seem a bit like that. It's because I'm not good at multitasking. So what's interesting about this is it's got a hole in the middle. Can you see that hole? I'm sure you can see that hole. There it is. There's the hole. Now, when they take the hole out, the stuff they take out the middle, because they do it when the cheese is very fresh, very young, they make that into another cheese. And I happen to have the other cheese here as well, Homewood. It's called Lamleer. There it is, Lamleer. So I might try this one as well, because it's made from the holes from this one. That's interesting. Because I've ever had a cheese that was made from the holes of another cheese that I'm aware of. So yeah. So what should we? Let's open the cider as well, shall we? Let's do that. So this is a cork. I don't think this is going to explode, because it's a pet nat, so bottled before the end of fermentation, which means that it just doesn't fight. The fermentation finishes in the bottle, so you're not going to get as much fizz as you would get from, say, like a champagne method, traditional method. There actually does some of the sugar in the bottle, so it does do a full second fermentation. The bottle gives you a lot more fizz. It's going to be much lighter than that. Pop, yeah, very gentle. I pour it out. So what I'll do is I think I'll talk about the cheese first, then I'll talk about this, and then I'll try them together. Look at the colour of that. That is a gorgeous looking thing. Very delicate sparkle, because it's pet nat, so it's not super fizzy. If you hear a buzzing, there is a wasp building a nest above my head in my shed, which I'm going to have to get rid of. But it's such a beautiful piece of insect architecture. I haven't the heart to at the moment. Yeah, so but I will eventually. So you hear some buzzing, it's just a wasp going in to build its nest, which I'm going to have to evict at some point from my cider shed. Right, so let's have a look at this. So I know this is unpasteurised. It's sheep's milk. For those of you who think you've never had sheep's milk, you probably have, you just didn't know it. If you ever had manchego, sheep's milk. If you ever had pecorino, that's sheep's milk. Pecora is Italian for sheep. So pecorino, sheep's cheese. Feta traditionally is sheep's cheese as well. So if you've had any proper feta, that's probably had some sheep's milk in as well. Roquefort has to be 100% sheep's milk from the Lacan breed of sheep, I believe, as well. So yeah, for any of those, you have had sheep's milk. But they tend to be less... You tend to have less of them around because milk from sheep is harder to get. You get about maybe a litre a day out of a sheep, if that. So there's a lot of work goes in for not much milk. So for that reason, sheep's milk tends to be quite expensive as well. But luckily, sheep were also bred for like wool and meat. So actually, traditionally, they'd have been useful. But if you just want to make cheese out of them and dairy produce, you have to milk a lot of sheep to get enough milk to make something like this. Luckily, there's a lot more solids in their milk than in a goat or a cow. So you will get more solids from the milk you get, but you get so little milk, it's still pretty hardcore. So yeah, what else to say? So bloomy rind. So you can see this has got like a white fluffy rind. You'll be familiar with this kind of rind. If you ever had like camembert or brie or anything like that, same stuff. It's called Penicillium candidum. That just means white penicillin. It was isolated by Louis Pasteur and his minions in the 19th century. Before that, like camembert and stuff actually had blue mold on it. Penicillium album, I believe it's called, which is the same sort of strain, it just goes blue. Same stuff, but they isolated this white mould. Everyone thought it looked very pretty, so they started putting it on all the cheese. So now all camembert is white, and it's one of the most common moulds you'll see on a soft cheese. It's quite easy to grow. You put it in your maturing room, you put it on your cheese in the maturing room. You know, you get a high concentration of it in a maturing environment. It'll just go bang, it'll grow very quickly on your cheese. So there you go. So let's cut into it. So sheep's cheese, much fattier and richer than cow's milk cheese. Often when you're handling like hard sheep's cheese, actually your fingers will start to glisten because of the fats that come off them. It's quite something. So there you've cut the section out. There it is. There you go. Look at that. Let's see for Chris. And that's the inside of it. So this is quite pale in colour. It's pretty hard with my thing just because it's so bright. You can just about see. So you can see this inside. So quite white in colour, just to show you the difference. Cow's milk, sheep's milk, right? Goats and sheep's convert beta carotene from the fresh food that they eat into vitamin A. And beta carotene is kind of yellowy in colour. Cows don't do that. So it comes out in the milk and gives them yellow milk. So if you ever see a cheese which is quite yellow in colour, unless it's been dyed, then it's probably going to be cow's milk. If it's very, very white, almost like a Daz bluey whiteness, I always think, then it's probably going to be goat or sheep's milk. So you can see it's just, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got some little, it's breaking down at the edge. You've got some runny sort of liquid at the edge, and it's a bit firmer in the centre. So the rind on this is breaking down the paste inside. It's literally the job of the, well, it's not its job, but the mould wants to feed on the paste, the substrate that it's sitting on. To do that, it releases enzymes, which changes the the consistency of the cheese underneath. It lowers raises the pH, so lowers the acidity, breaks down fats, breaks down proteins, makes it go softer, runnier, and gives you more complex flavours. So I'm going to eat this, rind and all, totally edible rind. Some people don't eat them. I'm going to eat it. So let's see what it's like. Rich, because of the fats, because it's sheep's milk. It's coating my mouth like double cream or butter even, which I like, I have to say. It's really good. It's quite gentle. All cheese has salt. It has to have salt. Don't buy cheese without salt in. Cheese without salt in is terrible for various reasons which I won't go into, but cheese needs salt, full stop. No question, okay? It's a preservative, but also it's a flavour enhancer. Cheese without salt is very, very bland. It tastes of almost nothing. The salt in this is really good. It's there, you can detect it. You shouldn't taste salt as a separate flavour. All the flavours in the cheese should be wrapped around the salt. And the salt in this is integrated really well. It's really balanced. Creamy, rich, buttery. That firmness in the centre, where it hasn't broken down, is still more acid, which balances the fattiness, the richness of the cheese quite well, I would say. It's got a nutty character to it, I want to say. It's got quite an earthy nuttiness, which I like. But it does taste like sheep's cheese. It's very hard for me to define exactly what that means. But sheep's cheese does have its own character. It's less sort of mineral, I think, than goat's cheese. This is nice. It's good. It's tasty. It's creamy. It's rich. If you like that kind of thing, most people seem to like that kind of thing, then try it. So, let's talk about the cider from Pilton. So, Tam O'Shanter. Okay? So, this is a Keeve cider made by Martin Berkeley in Shepton Mallet. What's Keeve cider, Chris? Good question. Keeve cider, it's often considered like the French method, but it's a method that we used to use in this country as well. But in France, they tend to use it all the time for everything. So keeving, it's a very old process. I don't know how they came about with this process. I mean, by accident, one would imagine. But basically what happens is you press your apples, you let them sit, certain enzymes come into play. And then when you press your apples, you put the juice in the fermenter. The enzymes, you'll add something like calcium chloride, and that will work with the enzymes to form a gel, a pectin gel. And as the liquid starts to ferment, the bubbles will lift this pectin gel to the top, form what's called a chapeau brun, brown cap on the top, and it will filter out nutrients as it goes and fine it. So it gives you a bright liquid which is low in nutrients and actually lower in yeast as well, because it'll take out yeast as it goes. So what that means is when you go to ferment it, the fermentation doesn't finish because there's not enough nutrients or yeast in there to finish the job. So usually you'll have residual sweetness because all the sugars won't have been fermented, and low ABV. So the ABV on this is in fact 4.7%. Now this is called Tam O'Shanter because Martin then puts it in a whiskey barrel. But I have to say I'm not a fan of putting things in whiskey barrels because whiskey often gets smothers the flavour of the cider if it's not done sensitively, but Martin does it very sensitively. So what I expect to get from this is a Keeve cider character, that residual sweetness, low ABV, but a real rich apple character, really rich apple character, sometimes like baked apple, cha-ta-tan character, and then a hint of whiskey in the background. That's what I hope to get. So let's try it. So actually, yeah, look at this colour. Let's look at this colour. Hold something up for you. There you go. Look at that. So look at that lovely amber colour. So they're using bittersweet apples for this primarily. Bittersweets are higher in tannin that oxidise and give you like really good colour, which is, as you can see, you've got in here. Let's smell it. Yeah. Ripe, rich apple, aged apple, baked apple. Really good. Really good. Really good. Exactly what I expected. And in the background, the merest hint of whiskey. Just the merest hint. Let's try it. Lovely bubbles. Just there. I prefer undercarbonation to overcarbonation. Carbonation masks flavour. Juicy, ripe apple. Really juicy apple. Aged, sweated apples. My mum's got a shed that she keeps apples in because she can't eat all the ones that fall off the tree in her garden. And after a few weeks or a few months, you walk in and that smell, that flavour, it's got that aged apple character, which I really like. Makes me think of orchards and, I don't know, autumn and things like that. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, one reason why I wanted to pair that with that as well, bubbles and fats go well together because the bubbles scrub the fats off your palate, making it ready for the next mouthful of cheese. That should work really well. Also, actually, things with sugar in go really well with cheese as well, because all cheese has salt. Sugar and salt, opposites, work brilliantly. Cider tends to have a bit of acidity. This is quite a low acid cider, but it's still got acids there. I can feel them. And acid and salt go really, really well together. So let's try it. Terrible job. Yeah. And that really rich sort of fattiness is actually, it's still there, but it's been minimised to a degree by those bubbles, which is great. Because it means I want some more. I want some more. I can eat so much more cheese when I do that. This is rich, ripe. It's got residual sweetness. It's not like a sweet cider in the typical sense. The natural sugar from the apples, they're not cloying at all. They're great. I like sweet, but I don't like a lot of industrial ciders because it's the sweets you get from like concentrates and so forth. It's kind of a sickly, cloying sweetness. With this, it feels like a natural sweetness you get from the fruit. It's a totally different beast, and I really like it. Good stuff. Right, next, let's talk about cheddar. This is a majestic piece of cheddar, very large, but I wanted it for demonstrative purposes, so I kept the cloth on, as I said. So cheddar. So cheddar is a much maligned product. It's made in factories in just about every country in the world, but cheddar is a place, and it's in Somerset, and it's where this style of cheese actually originated from. There are 4 what we call proper cheddar makers left, as in unpasteurised, cloth mound, handmade, using traditional starter cultures, traditional rennet, etc. I won't go into those too much because it's too much to talk about. You could do a whole hour just on cheddar alone. Yeah, and Pitchfork from the Trethowns is one of the 4. The other 3 are Westcombe, Keynes, who are in Wincanton, and Montgomery's in North Cadbury. Okay, so they're pretty close together, those other 3. This one's actually a bit more of an outlier. It's up more towards sort of the Bristol area, if you like, but closer to cheddar, in fact. And actually, if you look at this, I kept the cloth on so you can see me go. There you go. That is some cheesecloth being taken off a cheese. So that's a very English thing to do, put cloth on a cheese. I think because the English made very large, tall, narrow cheeses like cylinders, putting cloth on helped them keep their form rather than collapse. Also, we manufacture a lot of cloth in this country, so we had it available. The other thing that they will do traditionally is put lard on the outside to help seal the cloth. Now, why would you put cloth on? Well, actually, cloth allows the cheese to breathe. So that means as it's aging, it's losing moisture. The cloth will form a barrier to stop air penetrating, because air penetration will form blue, which is fine actually. The blue's delicious, but you don't want too much of it because it will break the cheese down. The cloth will minimise air penetration, but it will allow a little bit of moisture to leave the cheese. So as the cheese is sitting there, it's just losing very small amounts, but you want to control that. You want high humidity in your maturing room to control that, but it's losing that moisture. If you're making a commercial cheese with very, very tiny margins, you don't want your cheese to lose any moisture, because that means it's getting lighter and it's sold by weight. So you're losing money into the atmosphere if you do that. With these guys, they like it to get more the more moisture it loses, the more concentrated the paste will be. But you don't want to get too dry. You want to control that. So that's why they'll have humidity controlled rooms in which to do it. But you do want a little bit of moisture loss just to concentrate the paste, okay? It's like in whiskey, what they call the angel's share, or the angel's portion, the stuff that evaporates out of the barrel into the atmosphere. You know, the angels can have that, but what's left behind is more concentrated. So the Trethowns have been making this for several years now. They were based in Wales originally, which is why they make a Caerphilly. Then they relocated to just south of Bristol I think it was about 10 years ago, approximately 10 years ago. And because they were in Somerset, they wanted to make a traditional cheddar, because they're in the cheddar region. So why wouldn't you want to do that? They wanted to make a Caerphilly in Wales because that was the traditional cheese of the region. Once in Bristol, they wanted to make a traditional cheese of the region, and that was this. And I have to say, starting to make a cheddar from scratch is quite a brave thing to do, because you have to wait quite a long time to know if it's worked. You know, you wait several months, you taste it, you go, oh, that's terrible. So now we change the recipe, so let's change that one thing. You don't want to change lots of things at once, otherwise you won't know what's made the difference. Let's change that thing. Let's wait another 6 months. Oh, that's worse. All right, let's change that back and try another thing. Oh, hang on, that might be it. How many years have gone by? And how much cheese have you got sitting on the shelf as well? that you're not particularly happy with. So doing this is quite a brave thing to do. It's a big thing to take on. But actually, because I had so much skill already making the Caerphilly, which is quite a labour-intensive cheese to make, I think they had a great skill set, which allowed them out of the starting blocks, bang. And this is already up there with the other three cheddars. Absolutely is. It's great. It's consistent. It's brilliant. I'm very proud to represent it, to be honest with you. So the thing about cheddaring is it's a process. Cheddaring is the process by which you work the curd. You cut it, you stack it, you cut it, you stack it, you cut it, you stack it, you turn it. That's called cheddaring. Now, because the name of the process is called cheddaring, it was very hard to protect the term cheddar. If you're cheddaring in, I don't know, Australia, or you're cheddaring in Canada, it's very hard to argue that you haven't made cheddar. So kind of the horse is bolted. So getting like a protection and AOC on the word cheddar, it's very, very difficult to do. But the four cheddars are actually part of the slow food Presidia. That's the protection they have. So yeah, shall we try it? Yes, Chris, please. You don't have to talk a lot. I do. I'm sorry. Right. Gorgeous colour. Gorgeous colour. I don't know what the batch is on this actually. I should have checked. All of the cheeses have got tags on, so we know exactly what batch we're selling and what the age is. This is going to be, I think, about 13 months old. That's my guess, based on what we had on the stand. Lovely smell. Butter. It's almost got like butter and grass. Butter, grass, cream, almost like a egg custard kind of thing going on as well, a creme caramel or something. Really nice. My mouth's watering actually. So don't drop it. Let's try it. Rich, buttery, coat to my mouth. What I got on the nose, I'm getting on the palate as well. It's got a butteriness. It does have a kind of a savoury custard element to it, which is very hard to define. There's a mineral element to it. Love the acidity, which is something you get in British cheeses. They're very much acid in style, so they make your mouth water. So tell you what, let's pour out the cider. Now, it's a bit harder to pour out this stuff, but let's give it a go. It contains sulfites. That's absolutely normal. So yeah, Hewish, which is where Tretowns are based as well. So Ben Crossman making a very traditional style of a cider, still cider. So it wouldn't have been put in bottles. It was made on the farm to be drunk on the farm by the farm labourers for the most part. And labourers got paid in cider until the end of the 19th century, I think. And actually labourers would go into farms and try their cider, and if they didn't like it, they'd go to the next farm and they'd find which farm they wanted to work on by the quality of the cider on the farm, because that was their wages effectively, so it was in the interest of the farmers to make the best cider they possibly could. What you tend to find with these sorts of ciders is, as opposed to the Keith cider, more acid varietals, because acidity inhibits pathogens and things that you don't want to grow in there. So they use acid varietals, but acid varietals in there, and that will help protect the cider before the alcohol arrives, because alcohol is also a preservative. But actually the acids that you get, the malic, green harsh acids, actually over time can convert into lactic acid, the sort of acid you get in yogurt and cheese. So they will soften with age. So these things it's basically a wine. Cider is a wine. It's not a beer, it's a wine. It's, if you're making it properly, you're harvesting, you're doing a vintage from, say, maybe August through to a bit earlier than August, sometimes all through to like even December. You'll have early apples, mid apples and late apples in terms of when they're ready to sort of pick and press. And then you'll blend them, you'll put them in fermenters, and you'll leave them through the winter to ferment very, 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 very slowly in the cold weather. Okay, that's how traditional cider is made. Industrial cider is not made like that. Industrial cider is usually concentrates. They make a very, very, very rich concentrate, because that won't spoil, and they'll just keep that, and they'll just dilute that back every time they need some more. That's how it's made. It's a very different style of cider making, and it's not as good in any way, shape or form. So I'm going to try and pour this into here without spilling it. When I say try, I mean try. What? Oh, Chris, check you out. Oh, I let myself down right at the end. Oh well. Oh well. No matter. So, let's have a look at this, shall we? So again, nice colour. So again, made with the cider apples. So bitter sharps, bitter sweets. The bitter in that refers to the tannins. And the tannins, if you let when they're exposed to the air, tannins are what go brown. So actually, if you've got high tannin apples, you tend to get a lot more colour. I mean, different apples will give you different coloured juice as well, but the tannins will oxidise and give you that colour, which is fantastic. So if you see a cider which is very light in colour, it's probably made from dessert or culinary apples, because they don't contain the same sort of levels of tannin, so you don't get the same levels of colour. So, still, you get that acidity on the nose. You really do get that acidity on the nose with this. How strong is this, by the way? First one was 4.7. This will be stronger. This is 6.7. So yeah, it's like 2% more, but you'd expect that. I mean, it smells of really ripe, aged, freshly cut apple is what it smells like. But there's sort of a slight earthiness in the background as well. It's not just apple, it feels like some like earth orchards in there as well. I'm going to try, this is the medium. So it's going to have some sugar in, but not loads. But actually with these, because of the acidity you get, it balances the sugars really well usually. So that sweet and sour thing is usually a great combination. So, one thing I've got already, astringency from the tannin. Think of like when you leave a tea bag in a cup of tea, you drink it, and your teeth go squeaky, that's tannin. That's what bittersweets have. That's the tannin I was talking about. So the soft tannins and hard tannins, the soft tannins are what make your teeth go squeaky. And this has that, my teeth have gone squeaky. And the hard tannins, you tend to get as a leatheriness, like a bitterness and leatheriness in the back of the palate. That's what you get in red wines as well. You get kind of like that kind of like leathery kind of character. That's tannins doing that. It's the same stuff. So this has got some sweetness. It's got sourness. It's got rich apple character. It's got the tannins on the front, a little bit of leatheriness on the back, which works with the acidity to balance the sugars. I mean, people talk about scrumpy, and it's a derogatory term, you know, because people think people who make scrumpy don't care about what they put in it. This is a scrumpy, effectively. You know, a still cider made from, you know, made in a vintage from Somerset apples, put in a fermenter, left to ferment over the winter, you know, and even longer. You know, you can keep these for like months or years if you want to. I think I had one that was 3 years old from Devon, and it was amazing. It was viscous. It's incredible texture. But that acidity is what's helping preserve it, along with the alcohol. So you will always expect that more acidity. But people think that scrumpy is just going to taste horrible, like farmy, and this has not got that at all. It's got a lovely, fresh apple character, lovely acidity. It tastes great. Let's have it with some cheese, shall we? There's my wasp. Acidity, salt, sweetness. It's great. It's great. Apples and cheese. What a great combination. What a great combination. And people say, like, what go together. These two are a field apart in Somerset, basically, in the same village. So they couldn't be more closely connected. If you want to get hold of this stuff, you're going to have to go to the farm, I'm afraid. You're going to have to go down to Crossman's in Hewish, pardon me, and get some direct. Well, that's all right. What's better than going to a farm and meeting the guy who made this stuff and buying it direct? Nothing wrong with that. Get this online at thetrithounbrothers.com. You can also soon get this from the Trithoun Brothers, the Avaline, in the guest box. So if you want to know when that's getting released, you can sign up to their newsletter on their website if you want. This stuff, I mean, you can get in touch with me if you want to get some of this, but if you Google it, Pilton, Tam O'Shanter, there are lots of places to get it online as well. So, you know, lots of opportunities to buy it. But if you live in South East London, come and get it off me direct at Brockley Market. How's that? All right, guys. So that was me celebrating Somerset Day with 2 ciders and 2 cheeses. And what a nice time I had doing it as well. If they ever want to ask me to sit in the shed and drink and eat cheese, I'll absolutely oblige them every single time. All right, guys. So there you go. Somerset Day. Thank you for watching. As always, thank you for joining me in my shed. I hope that you can join me again. But until then, cheers.